and this is Anything is Possible. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about raising chickens. It might be something that you've kind of given some thought to in these times of crisis and pandemic. Food shortages are happening, and I understand that eggs have gotten just really expensive. I don't know why people are hoarding eggs all of a sudden. So I'm really fortunate. I actually have 5 hens, and they are laying really good right now. It's getting towards the end of March, and the days are getting longer and there's a lot more light, and that means that they are laying more. They don't lay much during the winter at all, if anything. Once in a while I'll get an egg, but for the most part, when it's dark and the days are short, I just let them rest. And so I was going to go over some basics. If you're thinking about getting some chickens, even people in cities can have chickens as long as it's okay with your city ordinances, and it's getting more and more lenient these days because people are enjoying having them as pets, and it's also just great to have a source of protein that's right there in your own backyard or your own home even. So one thing I wanted to mention, when I was first starting out, I actually picked up this book. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, hopefully you can see the whole thing. It's called Chickens in Your Backyard, A Beginner's Guide, and it's by Rick and Gail Lutman, and it's from Rodale Press. But I bought this probably about 10 years ago, and when you're starting out, it's really interesting, and it covers stuff that I'm not going to cover here. It covers how to raise meat chickens, and which I just don't have the heart to do. I'm just going to stick with eggs. And it talks all about how to incubate eggs to get your own chickens. If you happen to have roosters, oh hi Wook, then you can actually raise your own chickens from eggs. So Wookie, I think you need to get down. I'm sorry, baby. Yeah, my mommy's talking. To start off with, the way I've always done it is to go to a local outlet. They have a Grange co-op here that sells chicks every year, and you can pick up chicks relatively inexpensively, I guess maybe a couple of bucks a piece. They're about 2 days old, sometimes a little older, but they go like hotcakes, especially these days. I was just in yesterday, and all the chicks were spoken for. People had reserved them all, but they were getting some new ones in any day, so they're constantly getting new chicks in. So to me, that's just a great way. You can just go right back to the store if you happen to lose one. You can pick out ones that are cheeping and lively and happy. You can also order mail order. I've never done that. I just feel like it's kind of stressful on the chicks, and even though they would be coming shipped to the store that way, I just feel like maybe coming in a big shipment all at once, it's easier than having a bunch of different little shipments going all over the country. But if you want to get some of the more unusual kinds, you may really need to go to mail order. So there's a lot of mail order sources, and I would just get online and take a look and see what I'm sure they'll pop up in a search. I'm not going to recommend any because I haven't dealt with any. So when you get chicks at a store or online, you can get just females, which, you know, they've been sexed. Now, once in a while, they'll make a mistake and there will be a rooster, and that's kind of a surprise when they get to be teenagers and you realize there's a rooster. But by and large, they're pretty darn accurate in sexing them, so you'll be getting females, and you won't have to worry about roosters. If you order online, you can also order straight run, it's called, and that you get both males and females. You know, they haven't determined the sex of them, so you could end up with all roosters. You just don't know. It's 50-50 chance of having male and female that way. So I just don't want to have roosters where I live. I mean, it's just, I don't live in the city, but I live right on the outskirts, and I promised my neighbors I would not get a rooster because they're noisy. They're beautiful. They are just beautiful birds, and I would love to have one day if I ever live out someplace where I can have them, but they go 24 hours a day. I mean, there isn't anything like the rooster crows when the sun comes up. From what I understand, they pretty much will crow any time of day, so be prepared if you're willing to have some noise. Getting chicks is fun. They're so darn adorable, and they will imprint on you. So when you raise them, they will know you as mom, and they'll come running, and they'll be much more like tame pets if you get them as chicks. Also when you get them as chicks, you can choose what variety you want. And I have always picked my chickens, well, the beginning I picked them just, I got random. I got one of each kind they had at the store. And I learned the temperaments. I'm sure each chicken, there's a lot of variability, just like there is with any animal. Primarily now, I pick my chickens based on the color of egg that they lay, because I like to have a carton of eggs that has a whole, like Easter eggs. You know, they're all different colors, and if I sell them, people just are thrilled with having this confetti of egg colors. When they open up the carton, they're like, oh, they're so beautiful. Let's see, when you get them as chicks, it's a good idea to keep them in your house. You just keep them in a box. They don't hop or fly. They're very small. I usually just get a cardboard box, fairly large, that has high sides on it, and I put terry cloth towel in, and then I have a little chicken water and chick feeder, and when you go to the store, they'll show you chick feeders and chick waterers. They aren't expensive, and they pretty much, they sleep a lot, and they eat, and they drink, and they poop, and they cheep. Peep! They're so cute. And the more you pick them up and handle them, the more in tune with humans they will be. And so it's a good idea if you go in a few times a day and handle. Having chickens is just fun. And I have the neighbor's peacock. It's been here for 3 years. Yes, they make sweet little sounds. Yes, this one in the front is Souffle. I raised her from very small. Probably about 2-day-old chick. And this one is Posy on the left. That one I adopted when I got the hen house. She's probably about 6 years old now and still laying. You can tell if a chicken is laying because, I'll zoom in on her comb. It's a bright red. And when she's not laying, you know, when it's cold and wintry or she's molting, they don't lay. And it turns kind of a chalky pink. What I've done is, in the past, used those hot and cold packs and just stuck them in the microwave, and they stay warm for hours, but they don't stay warm all night long, and little tiny chicks really need a consistent source of heat. So it's best if you get a heat lamp, and it will be on all the time, and you don't have to worry about the chicks getting too cold. And you can set it up so there's warmer areas and cooler areas, and the chicks will move to the area where they're most comfortable. If they get too cold, they can move closer, or they get too hot, they can move away. So that's a good advantage of getting the heat lamp too. It's really easy to keep chicks in the house. There's actually quite a movement of people in urban areas, even apartments in New York and stuff. You can either make or buy diapers for chickens, and they make really good pets. So I just wanted to mention that if you think you don't have enough room for chickens, you actually can even just have them as house pets. They are messy and there's no way to potty train them, so you will need to have some sort of little diaper to keep them from messing on your floors and carpeting. You can keep the chicks in the house if you get chicks, and you don't have to absolutely have your coop and yard quite ready, because you have, you know, a few weeks where the chicks are growing before they actually go outside. And I did that the first time. I was like, I want to get these chicks, so I got the chicks, and then I had a deadline. You know, I had to get with it and put up a fence and build the hen house. The cons of buying chicks versus possibly buying older chickens. Chickens up to a year old that are just about to laying age, the hens are called pullets. And you can sometimes find those on Craigslist or online, or ask around if you live in a rural area. Find out if there's somebody that has chickens that they would like to get rid of some of them that are laying. The young ones are good when they're just about to start laying. And it's okay to get older hens. I got some that were a couple of years old, and now they're, oh gosh, I guess probably about 7 years old maybe, and they're still laying just great. So just be prepared when you get chicks. It's going to be quite a number of months. I would say maybe estimate 8 months before you get any eggs. And you know, they're just great fun, and they will bond you and you can have fun with them, but you know, you're not going to get any food out of them. And even when they start laying, they're kind of fits and starts, and the eggs are sometimes defective or small the first year, and then the second year they really get on with being a hen. So, chicks is that you're feeding them. I mean, there's some cost involved in feeding them, and they're not producing anything. So if that bothers you, you know, you probably should get hens that are going to produce for you. And also they can get sick and die, and let me tell you, it's really tough to find a vet who gives a darn about chickens. There's one vet here in my town that actually will see chickens, but they're like the bottom of the heap. So you might get an appointment in a week, and by that time the chicken's probably gone. I had that happen one time. I think I left a silicone spatula out in the yard. I was scraping out their food, and I left it out there. Chickens will peck at basically anything new and interesting, and they eat just about anything too. So I think what happened, I went out and that spatula had been pecked at and was largely gone, and then within a week that chicken kind of just stopped eating and sulked around and died. And I bet that's the one that ate the silicone spatula. It's really, I feel really bad, so I'm much more careful now. So if you get older chickens, pullets, or grown hens that are laying, you can expect to pay probably at least $10 a piece for them. Because somebody else has gone to the expense of raising them all those months, and they're just considered more valuable. So if you want a money-making business, you might want to consider just raising chicks and selling them as pullets when they get bigger, if you just enjoy that. But if you want eggs, you want the grown hens. So you do need to get a chick starter food. And you don't want to use regular hen food with baby chicks. There's less calcium in chick food, and it's much smaller particles, so little tiny beaks can eat it. But you'd think it would have more calcium to have nice strong bones, but what it is if you give them too much calcium as chicks, then the bones start to harden before they are finished growing, and they need to remain soft while they're growing. So that's part of the reason. As chicks get older, I generally take them out if the weather is warm and sunny and let them hop around on the grass a little bit. Make sure that you stay with them all the time and protect them from any intruders, hawks flying over, if you've got dogs, anything that might hurt them. You can set a chair out on the lawn and take a book out, and they'll just peck around, learn how to scratch in the grass and the dirt, and do what chickens do. I just think it's good for them to start getting an exposure to the real world. As soon as they start looking like they're beginning to be a little bit like real chickens, rather than just little tiny helpless little peepers. A lot of people wonder if you need to have roosters to lay eggs, or to have the hens lay eggs, and the answer is no, you don't need roosters. Basically, the hens are just ovulating, and they just ovulate, and they either get fertilized or they don't get fertilized. It doesn't matter one way or the other, and the nutrition value of a fertilized egg versus a non-fertilized egg is virtually the same. So just check, make sure. If you want to get a rooster, they are beautiful birds. Don't get too many of them, because the ratio of hens to roosters can get a little touchy. The roosters are very protective of the hens, and I've never had a rooster, so I can't advise too much on that. And I think it depends a little bit on the breed, but I would not advise getting too many roosters if you don't have a lot of hens, because then they'll start fighting with each other. So hens, they have their own little ways about being. They have different sounds that they make, which I find really charming. When they go to bed, they make little bedtime cooey sounds, and they make excited sounds when you bring them a treat, and they're excited about that. But by and large, hens really like to have a routine, and they get up about the same time and they go to bed about the same time based on how light it is. They don't like disturbances in their yard. They don't like predators. And that is actually one good thing about roosters, I understand, is that they are like watchdogs. They'll make quite a ruckus if there's something not right in the yard. So unfortunately I don't have that. I do have my dogs. And the chickens are used to having the dogs bark, so it doesn't faze them in the least. The dogs are in a separate yard, so they don't have a problem with them. But they like routine. They're curious. Anything that's new, they want to go and check it out and examine things. And they're very habitual. So it's good to just keep a little routine, try and keep things calm and peaceful and happy and cheerful in their yard. And let's see, they don't integrate well with new chickens. So if you have one batch of adult chickens and you either want to bring in some other chickens, adults, or you have your chicks that you've raised and a new batch that you want to bring in, don't just put them all together, because they'll peck each other. And they can be quite mean to each other, actually. And so anything new, it's not part of their flock, they recognize it as a chicken, but it's an intruder. It's not one of them, you know. So what I do when I've raised chicks or brought in hens from a new batch, I generally, at least for a couple of days with grown hens, put in a fence in between, divided the yard, and I have to duplicate areas. So, you know, food and water and kind of a makeshift hen house on one side. So they get to familiar with each other, and they can meet each other and see each other and, you know, kind of converse with each other and scope each other out. And then, you know, under supervision, I gradually open it so they can kind of mingle and see how it goes. You know, and if they start squabbling a lot, I'll separate them out again for a while. But by and large, chickens get along pretty well. Once they've integrated, they get in little spats now and then, and they do have their definite pecking order, you know. I mean, that's how that gets established, is they peck. And somebody does something that there's, you know, I'm the top chicken, and some other chicken comes along and tries to take something that chicken has. It's like they will get in squabbles and they'll pick each other, but it's not usually, I've never had any actually, you know, harm each other. The only time I did have one that got injured one time, and there was blood, and the other chicken started pecking at that injury. So if a chicken is injured, you really have to separate them out until they're completely healed. It's just chickens, they'll peck. That's what they do. They peck at stuff. And their beaks are sharp and they're hard, and so, you know, they can do injury, but by and large, they're pretty peaceful girls, and they're a lot of fun, and I enjoy having them. So when you're trying to figure out how many hens you need, once a hen is laying, well, at least I would say, you know, the second year. The first year is always kind of spotty. You know, they just, they start laying and they just don't lay an egg every day. They're too young. But once they're older, after a year old, you can expect about an egg a day. And sometimes they'll lay more, sometimes they less. And now that my hens are older, I don't get one egg from every single one of them every day. The older ones are a little less, but you know, they're still laying pretty good. I got 4 eggs today out of the 5 hens. I got 1 egg yesterday, but it was overcast and cloudy, and they never lay when it's like that. And you know, chickens are funny. It's like anything that's a disturbance. If you have a gardener that comes in and mows your lawn, or you have somebody come over construction on your house, I mean, anything that's a disturbance, they will stop laying, or you'll get a lot fewer eggs. They just don't like disturbances. They like things quiet. They like a routine. Let's see, what else do I have here? I had a lot of notes. Oh yeah, it's just what kind of feed. I get organic feed because I figure if I can get non-organic eggs at the store, so why should I not have organic? And when I sell the eggs, I say organic feed. There's no way to control the stuff that they're pecking in the yard. I mean, I don't spray. But I can't say that the worms that they ate are organic. I mean, they're not certified. Nothing is certified. The feed is certified organic. And the scratch that I feed is certified organic. So they know that they're free range, and the supplemental feed that they eat is organic. So you'll be amazed at the eggs that you get. I'll crack one open and show it. It is just like mustard yellow yolks. It's absolutely no comparison. The rich color and the nutrition in free range, good homegrown chicken eggs is nothing like store-bought eggs that have been raised in a coop somewhere, or poor things. I just feel so bad the way some chickens are raised. Mine are just so happy. So what do you feed a chicken? I get layer food, and my chickens are really particular now. They don't want to have anything except whole grain feed. Most chicken feed that you find will be like ground up grain that's compressed back into pellets. Or you can get what's called mash, where you mix it with water and it makes like a gruel or something for them. I've never given mash to mine. But mine, now that they're used to the whole grain food, they absolutely don't want anything to do with any pellets whatsoever, which is a real disadvantage because my local store here carries a very good quality organic feed that's a mix of grain and pellet, and my chickens will eat the grain and just leave the pellets, and then you start getting problems with rats and mice if you leave a lot of chicken feed lying around. It's just kind of not a good thing to have. So so you need feed, and you need, I do scratch. Most people get scratch, and that's just basically grain that has no added vitamins and minerals and stuff. It's kind of a treat. I go out in the morning and throw a little scratch out for the hens, and it's a little snack when they first get up. You know, it's okay, it gets their metabolism going, but it doesn't have as much nutritional value as the feed. So you really shouldn't count on scratch to be a bulk of their diet by any means. The other thing is they need grit. And grit is basically like crushed rock. And they need grit because that's the way they digest food. You've probably heard of gizzards before. And their gizzard, the rock goes in the gizzard and the food goes in the gizzard, and basically it just grinds. It's a muscle, and it grinds those stone and rock, grinds up the food together. And that's the way they digest the food. It's kind of the stone from the grit grinds up whatever it is they ate and allows them to digest the food. The other thing they always need is some good source of calcium. Some chicken feeds have calcium in them. And I personally don't believe that that's really a good idea, because chickens will figure out how much calcium they need on their own. So I feed mine oyster shell, and I also, when I'm eating the eggs, I take the eggs and I save all of my chickens' shells and I smash them up and I feed them their shells back again. It's really important to have enough calcium in their diet, because otherwise they will start drawing calcium from their own bodies, and their bones can start to get weak. So it's good to actually make sure that they always have a supplement of calcium available, and they'll eat both that and the grit. They know. I don't know how they know, but they know when they need to eat more. And mine are eating a lot of calcium now that they're laying eggs. They don't eat near as much during the winter. But in egg laying season, they lay a lot. They eat a lot of oyster shell. So now I'm going to get into eggs a little bit, which is kind of why most people have chickens, in addition to the entertainment value that they provide. I collect my eggs every single morning. I go out and let my hens out, and I have a little basket I take out and I collect the eggs. If it's hot weather, you might want to collect them as soon as you get used to when they lay. They pretty much lay in the morning. Once in a long time, one will get in there in the afternoon and lay, but in hot weather, it might be a good idea to collect them as soon as you know that they've done their laying. I don't usually bother Eggs stay good in room temperature for a long time. In Europe, I understand they don't refrigerate eggs at all. They just leave them out at room temperature. So the important thing with eggs, a lot of people, they're tempted to wash them. And I have to encourage you not to do that. If you go out when your hen has laid, just as she's laid, you'll look at the egg and it is wet. And it's kind of got this slimy finish on the outside. And then that dries quite quickly, actually. And that coating is really important air barrier to the egg. And if you wash that off, your eggs will spoil a lot quicker. So a lot of people, when they're selling eggs, they feel, oh, I've got to wash the eggs, you know, so that they're all nice and clean. Well, if you keep your nesting boxes clean, you shouldn't have a whole lot of problem with that anyway, because it just goes into the wood shavings or the straw, and you may have to dust some of those off because they kind of get stuck in that coating sometimes when it's still wet. But there shouldn't be a whole lot of mess on them. They don't like poop on their eggs. So I was just going to show you how yellow the eggs are from the chickens, but then I decided I'd go ahead and show you what I eat for breakfast normally. I do a little stir fry, lots of veggies, whatever's in season. Right now we have cabbage and carrots, so I shred some carrots and chop up a bunch of cabbage. I have a good chunk of ginger. I start with that, fry that in a little bit of usually avocado oil or peanut oil, and then I toast some peanuts while I'm doing all the rest of this. So I fry the ginger, throw in the cabbage and carrots after this is frizzled a little bit in the oil, and then I throw in the eggs. And while this is cooking, I throw in some curry powder, usually about a teaspoonful. I like curry. And then salt and some pepper. And so you get anti-inflammatories from the ginger, anti-inflammatories from the turmeric and the curry powder, and the pepper helps you absorb all of the turmeric. And then after that, then I'll show you how yellow the yolk is. You are not going to find an egg like that in the store. They are so almost orange, and they vary depending on what the hens have eaten. But I'm doing 2 eggs now. Normally I only do 1 egg, but this is a way you can use your eggs, and I just love this for breakfast. It's filling. You get to eat a lot of stuff, and it's just got almost no, it's not fattening at all. There's no carbs, no sugar, just a little bit of healthy fats, and some spice, and it is just a wonderful way to start the day. And a way to get some protein in you first thing. You do have to watch a little bit. Sometimes hens get into pecking their eggs. And once they've pecked an egg open and they get into the egg, they realize that they're pretty good eating. And it may seem cannibalistic, but you know, they really do get to the point where once they do that, they get a taste for egg, then they'll start pecking and eating their own eggs all the time. So you'll have to really keep an eye on when they lay and go out there and grab them as soon as they've laid. Check several times a day. Eggs, they'll lay when the day length is long, you know, long enough, like starting around March in this latitude, they start laying again. And then they knock it off again in late fall. Some people supplement the hen house with light and make the hens feel like their day is longer. Once they've gone to bed, the light is on, and they will keep laying, and that's how commercial growers keep eggs coming all year long. But you will wear your hens out a lot faster that way, so I don't do that. Plus you have to have electricity in your hen house, and I haven't bothered with that. So I just let my hens rest in the winter time, so they get about 4 months off in the year when they aren't laying. And yeah, sometimes I have to go and buy eggs at the store. Just makes me appreciate my own eggs more when it comes egg season again. And they do molt, just like any bird. They lose their feathers once a year, usually in fall. It varies a lot when they molt, but you'll start seeing a lot of feathers around, and sometimes your chickens will start looking really bedraggled. A lot of times you won't notice that much, but some hens tend to really lose a lot of feathers, and they start looking pretty bald and tattered looking and before they start growing new feathers. But when they're molting, they won't lay at all either. It's putting all their energy into growing feathers. So during that time also, it's just a good idea to make sure they have a little extra protein. Chickens will eat a whole lot of things. They'll eat meat, they'll eat dairy. Sometimes I give them a dish of yogurt. Just the more they're used to eating a variety of foods, the better, I think. Kitchen scraps are always good. Mine absolutely adore cooked pumpkin and pumpkin seeds. So I like to try and give them some extra things, and when they're molting, just a little extra protein can't hurt, because that's what the feathers are made out of, just like our hair. It's made from protein. So what you need for adult hens, you need to have a hen house. You want to come up? Okay, come on. And it's not real particular what you use as a hen house. I mean, you could use an outbuilding that you've got, or you can have some smaller shelter. It's kind of good to have it up off the ground and have it so you can close them up at night and protect them from intruders. They're very vulnerable. Everybody likes chicken. So there's raccoons and weasels and snakes come and eat the eggs and everything. So it's just really a good idea to make sure you have your chickens really well protected. I've even heard of people using old cars for hen houses. It's kind of, you can set it out in the yard and it's kind of fun. So hens in general, when they're sleeping, they like to fly up to something high, and so it's good to have like a branch or several branches. I've just used tree branches in one hen house that I built. They love that. They need something. When they sleep, their little feet curl up, and so they need something to just perch on. So a dowel will work. Don't make it too small for their little hands. You know, so probably about 3/4 of an inch to an inch is good size for them. And so that's a perch for them to sleep on. And then you need nesting boxes. I used to think that you need to have a nesting box for every hen, and that is not true. They actually kind of settle into, you know, 2 or 3, depending on how many hens you've got. And they tend to go into the same ones. They don't all lay exactly the same time of day. And a lot of times they'll go in and lay where there's other eggs that some other hen has laid. Oh, and the nesting boxes, they do like a little privacy. So when they're nesting, they like to have a place that's kind of dark and secluded and private. You don't max out your hen house if you can help it. I would start small and grow, you know. Start with fewer chickens and oversize your hen house, because once you get them, you might find that you really like having them. So mine is really small, and I would like to have more chickens, but I just can't. Okay, so you need good ventilation. That is one thing that's really important with hens, especially when it's hot in the summer. You need to have good airflow going through there, because there's actually a lot of ammonia in their poop. Their poop is a mixture of actually urine and poo together. It all comes out together. So there's a lot of ammonia in there. They also, if you live in a really cold climate, you'll want to keep the place warmer in winter. I get some snow here, and I do actually put plastic over part of the screen area to keep the air from coming in that's so cold. It's not good to have them in a draft, especially in the cold. Some breeds of chickens are better at dealing with cold than others. This is a gate to the hen house that I built. And the hen house got off of Craigslist. Somebody in a town near me had it on Craigslist, and it came with the 4 hens. So right now I have plastic I installed on their door, but you can see it's screened in on the bottom. The guy built it, and it has a little ramp that goes into their upstairs area. I just thought it was the cutest thing ever. And then I built this little back porch, which is nothing fancy, but their food is down in there. I have a treadle feeder. And then these containers, I just have grit and either crushed eggshell or calcium, oyster shell in it. And then I have a plastic bin that I keep all their supplies in. This is inside the hen house. I actually have a motorized automatic door opener, but it's not working right now, so I just come out and open and close the door for them every day. But I'm going to hook that up to my solar panel and get it working again this summer. One thing you gotta know is that chickens do kind of tend to make a mess. There's feathers and poop. I come in and scrape it out every now and then. But back there is the nesting boxes. Hi, sweetie. You come to see what Mom's doing? Yeah. Hi. She's a sweet girl. They have a bar that they can roost on, although by and large they go back into the nesting boxes as well. They don't like to be this crowded, and I really have too many hens for this little coop. I just can't add any more chickens at this point. Go around to the other side. This is the back side, and this is where you can just open it up. Oh, and see, there we are. We got a blue egg. These are from the Americana, and a tan egg, which would be from the Buff Orpington, which would be what Rosie is. A few other things to think about when you're laying out a yard, a fenced yard if you're going to fence for your chickens. Chickens love to do what's called dusting, and they will all dig themselves little pits in the ground, and usually it's in a sunny place, and they'll scratch the dirt up, and that dirt gets up into their feathers, and the dusting helps to keep mites and bugs and stuff out of their feathers. And when I find a pit that they've dug, I go and I get, you can get diatomaceous earth. You can get it at a pool supply or nursery or whatever. It's basically, it's little shells from microscopic sea creatures, and it's sharp. And so what that does when they dust with the diatomaceous earth, that actually helps to penetrate the mite and slice them up. And they do like shade when it's hot, and they need a source of water out where they are, and access to their food, and also access to the hen house, so they can go up and they can lay in their nesting box. Hens cannot see in the dark, so when the sun sets and it starts getting to be dusk, they all go back home when they go to bed. And how do they know? How do you get them to go to bed? Well, when you're first getting your chickens out, I usually let mine out a little bit more and a little bit more until pretty soon what I do at the end of the day is when they're young, you put them in the hen house and you close the door and you put them on their little roost, and it doesn't take them long. They kind of, when they wake up in the morning and they come downstairs, it's like they just know that that's their roost. And the saying, the chickens come home to roost, that's true. I don't have to do anything to chase them in unless I'm leaving for do some event in the evening or something and I know that I'm going to be gone. Then I have to chase them in and coax them in with food and stuff. But after sunset, they all just go into their roost, and you close the door and they're in there safe and sound for the night. You don't have to do a thing. In the morning, when it's light, you go out and open the door and they'll come back out. So it's important to protect your hens from predators. That is the #1 reason you'll lose chickens. There are all kinds of things that will get your chickens. And there's some very aggressive animals that once they know there's chickens there, raccoons will just tear wire right off of the hen house to get to the chickens in the night. There's nocturnal predators and there's predators during the day. During the day you have to worry about hawks. I've had foxes grab a chicken when they're just out and about. So now I completely fence my area for my chickens, and I have plenty of protection. Chickens will run for cover if they hear a hawk cry. So when they hear that sound, they will run. But you can't just have them out in the open or you're going to be losing chickens. Now, chicken wire is a misnomer when you're building. Chicken wire is absolutely no protection at all for your chickens. You've got to use hardware cloth, and half-inch square hardware cloth is good. You don't want to get anything too much bigger. If you live anywhere near water, you might have a problem with weasels. And weasels can get in very small openings. So whatever area is in the hen house that you close up at night, you've got to close up at night and lock them in there. I have this hardware cloth all stapled on the floor, and I have hardware cloth all around the sides, and then I have a little ramp that goes up to the upstairs where the roost is. And there's no way to really get that off. I use these great big staples that you hammer in. And so it would take like a bear to actually get in there. The other thing is traffic. I mean, some people just let their chickens wander all over their yard, and that's okay if you live in a very rural area with no traffic, but I live on a busy street, and my chickens would be smashed in no time at all. They just wander out there and they're pecking at this and that, and traffic is whizzing by, and they'd either cause an accident or they'd be squashed. So if you live in a rural area where it's okay for you to let the chickens wander, then and there's trees around and overhangs, and you can let them wander around. They're perfectly fine doing that. They don't go very far away. They tend to hang together with each other. They are a flock, and they stay pretty close to their house. They get familiar with other areas, and that's how I lost one to a fox, was they started wandering a little more astray, and once they got too far away out in the wild area, a fox got hold of one, and then he kept coming back because he knew there was chicken dinner there. I have a good sized yard. It goes all the way down there, and then that's my vegetable garden, which is looking a little bedraggled right now because it's still winter. And then it goes all the way up to the front fence. And then I have it fenced in along the side there. So the dogs still have a very large yard to run around in, but I'm protecting my vegetables and my chickens. This area is pretty protected by trees. There's a big Comice pear tree here, and there's pear trees there, and this far one actually over here, that's a crabapple tree. And you want to protect them from predators like hawks will come down and swoop and pick up a chicken, carry it off. So that's another reason in this particular open area out in the middle here, I built the arbor, because hawks won't come down and swoop down and fly off with a chicken. And it will be covered with nice grapevines in the summertime and make a nice shady area for them when it gets really hot. I thought I'd just sit out here on the chair for a while and you can we can just observe. Hopefully they'll kind of come over this way. You can just see how chickens behave. They're curious. Hey there. This one is a buff Orpington. They are kind of like the golden retrievers of chickens in my opinion. Really nice, big, fluffy, friendly chickens. That, of course, is Heloise, my white peacock. This one here is an Americana, or say I call them Oricanas now. And one of the important things to know is you can look at the difference of their legs. This one right here is called a Welsummer, and you're going to think that she looks an awful lot like the Americana, but if you look at the Americana's legs, they're actually blue. And you can tell from a chicken's legs to some extent what color their eggs are going to be. So the Americanas do lay bluish green eggs. The buff Orpingtons lay kind of buff colored eggs like their little brown legs. And then the Welsummer over there lays a nice kind of medium brown with brown, dark brown speckles. So you can't tell from that but it has nice orange legs. So you can kind of tell. Another thing by looking at a chicken's legs is when they start getting real thick. I don't know if I can zoom in on this, but these girls are pretty old. Their legs are supposed to be getting kind of stumpy and thick. Whereas the Welsummer's new. I guess maybe they're a little thinner. Yeah, they are smaller, aren't they? So that's what they say, is when their legs get thick, kind of like old ladies. That's when you can tell that they're older chickens. But this is what they do. They just kind of peck around, make little sounds. Buck, buck. Buck, buck. Buck, buck. And they're personable, they're happy, they're right sticking around with me because I'm out here. And they're curious and they like Mom. And Heloise. Heloise! She's a nice quiet bird. She doesn't really make a lot of noise. People always think peacocks are real noisy, but she's not a noisy bird. Oh, spread those little fingers out. I just love chickens. They're just happy, you know? They're just happy hens. Hi, sweetie. This was the one I raised. This is Souffle. I raised Souffle from just a little baby. There was just one more thing that I realized I forgot to add about the breeds, picking a breed. There's actually breeds that are specifically bred for meat chickens, and breeds that are specifically for egg laying, and then there's some that you can use either way. But you definitely do not want to get one of the kinds that is just for meat for eggs, because they basically are bred so that they have so much breast meat that develops so fast that they actually will suffocate if you don't slaughter them. And it's unkind to do that, because they just get muscle bound and it compresses on their lungs, and so you actually, you know, you have to make sure you get the right kind of hen. So I'll put a link below to a couple of websites that have information, but largely it'll be determined by what you have available locally, and just make sure that you get one that is specifically for eggs. So that about wraps it up for this exciting episode of Anything is Possible. I just hope you enjoyed watching, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe and share it with your friends, and take a look at some of the other videos I have on my channel. I'm always adding more.